everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Today is fear and limiting beliefs. That is the topic for today. It's our lunch lesson live every week in the Facebook group. So thanks so much for being here. If you're here, give me a little wave. So glad you're here. Let me know if you're here on the live, just type live, or if you're watching on the replay a little bit later, just type replay below. I would love to know who comes in the day of and who's catching this later. So thanks so much for being here. Today's topic, like I said, is fear and limiting beliefs. So this is right personal to everybody. I think everybody deals with fear. And I don't think we talk about it enough, right? Especially as women, I think we're told that it's weak. I feel like society tells us a lot of things, right? That it's not good to, admit that you're afraid or fear. We just make it the bad guy a lot, right? And we probably don't even admit it to ourselves sometimes that that's what's kind of holding us back. So tell me in the comments, do you feel like fear is something that is holding you back in your business? Tell me below if you feel like it pops up in ways that you're not even sure that's what it is, but they are limiting beliefs that are keeping you from moving your business forward. Just tell me in the comments if that sounds like something that's true, or just give me a little yes if you feel like that is true for you and your business, because I think it's true for all of us, right? This is a safe space, judgment-free zone, but I think it's something that we all deal with, quite honestly. No matter how successful you are, no matter where you are in your business journey, I think fear creeps up a lot, right? And so we're going to talk all about that today. We're going to talk about kind of the three big fears that come up for me and my clients a lot, that I think are common with all of us, and then kind of some three ways to kind of deal with that, because I think the goal is not to, fear is not a one and done kind of thing, right? It comes up every single day, and more days than others, right? I think it's a wave of, and business is really a wave, right? There are some days where we are really feeling it and other days where we're not so much feeling it. So we've really got to have some tools, I think, in the toolbox to be able to rise up on those days where we're not so feeling it, and then be able to really celebrate the days where we are really feeling it. So that's really, I think the goal is to have more tools in your toolbox, and to really open up your perspective to maybe some new ways of changing your mindset, right? I think mindset is everything, right? I have that saved on my lock screen at the moment. So mindset is definitely everything. And I think it's something we don't often focus on, but I think it's a really important aspect of every business. Okay, so just a quick thank you to everyone who voted on today's topic. If you want to suggest any topics that would be helpful to your business, feel free to suggest them below, or every Tuesday I put out a poll on some topics that I think would be interesting, but I'm not you, I'm not in your business. So if there are things that you think would be helpful to talk about, I would love to hear it. So you can always suggest them on the Tuesday poll or reach out to me. I would love to discuss a topic on one of these lives each week that is pertinent to your business, right? I would love to know what are some questions that you have for your business. So feel free to suggest below or vote on that poll every Tuesday. So thanks so much to everyone who voted. This was our first vote. I've got to check the recent votes if there were any, but it's the first vote that's been unanimous. So unanimously, everyone voted that today's topic would be on fear and limiting beliefs. So it could be a sign of, I think it's business women in general, but it's obviously a sign of perhaps the economy, a sign of the times that I think everyone's feeling a little bit fearful, and certainly limiting beliefs can hold us back in our business, and just in our day-to-day life. So I think it's really pertinent right now. So I'm so glad you're here. We're going to talk all about it. So this video is for coaches, for business owners, for mompreneurs, really women. I like to speak to women because it makes the most sense to me, obviously, right? And I think we need the most support, right? I feel like this world is perhaps not set up for us, right? I don't think the world is set up for women, certainly not for women to be successful as men. And certainly, I think there are a lot of things that we deal with from just societal messages, as well as our past, as well as, you know, just gender roles in general that really hold us back, I think, in business. So I really think a lot of that has to do with fear and limiting beliefs, and perhaps things that we were told, right, either as kids or messages we receive in on TV, in movies, you know, things like that. At the beginning of this group, I'm so excited our group is growing, but if any of you were around at the beginning, right, I used to put out some little memes about movies, right? I think movies play such a big role in perhaps kind of how we view things, and kind of on a subconscious level, right? We don't realize the messages that we're getting. But tell me in the comments if you have noticed a movie recently that portrays a woman who is successful as being nice, right? I think that rarely happens. More often than not, a rich woman or a successful woman is usually described and portrayed as not nice, perhaps the B word, right? She is like, she has to learn a lesson, or, you know what I mean? She's usually a mean girl. And anyway, tell me in the comments if you've watched a show lately, or seen a movie where you feel like the rich girl had to learn a lesson, or was portrayed perhaps badly, or as mean, or right, not nice, right? And it's really hard. I feel like as women, we see that message a lot, and so we feel like, one, we don't want to be that, or we think we don't, right? We think, well, I don't want to be that rich, right? I don't want to be that successful, because then I'll be greedy and I'll be mean. And right, that's just really not true. So those are some good ideas to kind of keep in mind when you're watching, I think, mainstream television, right? Is to keep in mind that that those are some messages that we hear, right? And it's not your fault. It's not your fault if you're afraid of being successful, or afraid of being rich, or afraid of taking that risk, because I think we're bombarded with that message day in and day out. So give yourself some grace, right? And some props for being here, right? For starting a business, for wanting to grow your business. Give yourself credit. I'm so glad you're here and you're doing great. Whatever you are doing great. So don't forget that at all. Okay. So today, let's take just a minute, right? I always like to say in these videos, take a minute to think about our abundant mindset, right? And I always say this, that yes, I feel like I have an abundant mindset, but man, on those hard days, right? When things come in and it's stressful and the kids need you and blah, 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 bills to pay, blah, 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 right? It's hard to be in this abundant mindset. And that's the whole point of how mindset is everything. I really think it takes some tools every day to be able to pull ourselves or motivate ourselves on those days that are hard, right? When things aren't working out, or, you know, we didn't get that message from the client, or, you know, it just feels a little bit harder. I think that's when we need our tools. So that's what we're really here for. And the whole idea is staying in that abundant mindset is really just remembering that all things are possible, right? It is possible for you to be a woman and be successful. It is possible for you to build the business that you want. It is possible for you to make money with the business that you want. I really believe that. I really believe there is plenty of room in the market. There is plenty of space for you to have your unique perspective and build it however you want, right? I really believe that you can do this business however you want, and whatever feels great to you, and whatever feels aligned to you, right? And that is that abundant mindset, is just remembering that whatever those self-doubt or fear that kicks up, that's just perhaps your ego, or perhaps just fear, just recognizing it as fear and allowing it to move along and take that message, right? So if any of you saw my video last week, I talked about how fear is really this made up story, right? We make up a story about what's going to happen in the future, what might be, right? Who that person is that we might be in the future, and that holds us back from taking action today. And it's just a made up story, right? So what if we just take that fear or feeling as a message, like, okay, what is this? Maybe it's a message to slow down, take a different direction, or just take note that this is scary, right? And I'm going to do it anyway. So those are some things to keep in mind. So we're going to stay in our abundant mindset and be free to be the businesswomen that we want to be, successful and make money, right? We're told, I think, a lot to it's not safe or it's not nice to make money, right? And I am here for it. We are all here to make money, and well-resourced women can do way more good. So it is not bad to make money. It is not bad to want to make money. It is not greedy to make money. Well-resourced women can help other women and the world and do good things, right? It's okay to be wealthy and nice and caring, and you can do both things. So just to put that out there, right? All right, so if you're new here, right, I'm Christina. I have been really in business for 15 years. I've had a different business in some form or other. I started my first little Etsy shop back in 2010 and have been really trying to be seen on the online world since then. And it's a hard place, right? If any of you have been in business for any amount of time, it's giant. It's hard to be seen. If you are having a hard time being seen, right, online, or if you feel like day in and day out, it's a little bit different, right? Some days yes, some days no. It's hard, right? So just tell me in the comments, give me a little wave or a little arms up if you feel like that's true, that it's hard to be seen online, right? And I think that happens to a lot of us, that it holds us back then, because we're like, well, that didn't work, so either I just have to do more of that thing, right? Or I haven't done the right thing, or oh, I'm not doing it right, or blah, 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 right? All these things that kind of come tell us. And so, you know, with me, I talk a lot about the bike shop. My husband and I started a little bike shop, coffee shop back in 2014, and we loved it. It was such an amazing experience, but man, having to close a business is really scary, right? And really, it takes a lot out of you. And it's taken me a lot of years to kind of overcome that fear of failure, right? Because if you have done something before, you have the fear that if something bad has happened, right? You have that fear that it's gonna happen again. So I know that it creeps up for me all the time. Like, well, if that business failed, I'm not sure you can be successful again, right? And that's just a made up story, right? Like it hasn't happened yet. So why hold myself back in just this made up, you know, storyland where it happened once, so it's going to happen again? No, that's not true. My gosh, it's not happening, right? But it comes up, right? And those feelings always creep up and are like, hey, are you sure you can do this? Like, you didn't do it before, right? But I really don't see the bike shop as a failure, right? And yeah, it looks like if any of you have closed a business, right, it's really tough. But it doesn't mean that it's going to happen again, or it doesn't mean that it was a total failure, right? I learned so much from that bike shop, and what a blessing to have closed that business, right? It was really hard, but wow, I am so glad to be here and not there, quite honestly, right? I'm so glad that it didn't succeed for so many reasons, but in that moment, man, it was the world was ending, right? It really felt like things were terrible. So obviously that trauma sticks around and causes fear, and those are things to just name, right? It's okay to name it for what it is and recognize, okay, that's probably why I am afraid to take this step, or I'm afraid to, you know, really push myself in this new business, or whatever that is, right? It's scary for sure. Okay, so let's talk about kind of the three main fears that I think creep up for most business owners, and certainly for myself, right? At the bike shop, like we said, because of that, having to close those doors, I think the number one fear that I notice is doubt, right? Self-doubt, self-sabotage, and this looks like a lot of things, right? A lot of people call it maybe imposter syndrome. I think that is a word that I'm starting to hate, right? If anyone else hates imposter syndrome, I hate that we have come up with a word, because it's really only women. I don't see men talking about imposter syndrome. They're not afraid that they're not the right thing, right? It's only women who are feeling like they're an imposter, right? And I hate that we have come up with a whole word, and it's a new, you know, buzzword. I just hate that we've had to come up with a word to describe our inadequacies, right? Or describe how we're feeling like in this world. But it's good to have a name, right? At the same time, it makes sense. So if that's a word that resonates with you, right, it is okay to name it. I think it's really important to name it so we can heal from it and move on from it, right? So self-doubt, imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it, but whatever you're feeling like you are feeling like you're comparing yourself, right? I feel like comparison, there's a famous quote, right? If anyone knows that, feel free to say below, but something like comparison kills dreams, right? Comparison is the biggest killer of momentum, of action, right? If you see someone else doing what you want to do on the internet, you're like, oh my God, she's successful, I'm never gonna be, right? That is the first thought. And I hate that, and it's taken me a while to start to notice, and social media is such a hard place for comparison, right? It is so easy as you're scrolling to be like, oh, she's doing it, oh, she's doing it, oh, they had a great vacation. You know what I mean? Like it can really like bring us down, right? But recognizing those feelings and realizing that, oh yes, comparison is the thief of joy. Thank you, Sandy. Yes, right? Comparison is such a killer, and it is so, such a hard thing on social media because we are bombarded with messages from everybody, right? Not only ads of successful people that look successful, but, you know, also our friends who we love, but maybe we're, you know, envious of maybe their vacation or whatever they're doing, or, you know what I mean? It's just the biggest comparison is such a killer of joy. And I think of business, right? Because we feel like there's someone out there doing what we want to do for sure, right? That we compare ourselves. Someone else is always going to be more successful, and someone else is always on a different path, right? It doesn't have to be your same path, but we are so quick to compare ourselves. So I think just noticing those feelings is really the key to starting to be aware, to be able to change that story that we're telling ourselves. So to be able to ask ourselves, is that true, right? So if we see someone else being successful and we immediately catch our own thought saying, oh, there's not enough room in the market. Is that true, right? No, it is not true. I think there is so much room in the market. I don't believe in a saturated market. I think everyone has a unique perspective and a unique path for their business and perspective that people want to buy from you for you. You are passionate about a certain something, and you want to let that be known, right? That is why people are going to come to your business for your particular passion. So let that passion shine, right? And you can do it in a different way, or you can do it in the same way, right? It's not going to be exactly the same as anybody else because it's you. No one else is exactly you. So whenever you feel those comparison feelings coming up as you're scrolling through social media, like, oh, she's doing it, maybe I can't do it, right? Is that true? No, it is not true. So just try to ask yourself, is this a story that I'm telling myself? Has it actually happened yet? And most likely the answer is no, right? So if it hasn't happened, why would we keep telling ourselves that story, right? I'm never giving up, right? I'm not going to give up just because someone else has been successful, right? That doesn't mean there isn't a place for me. So definitely, you know, think about those questions. Is it true? Is this story that I'm telling myself true? So that's really, I think, the number one fear is self-doubt, self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, comparing, right? Comparing ourselves to others. So the second fear that I like to talk about is fear of investing, fear of finances, right? I think often as women, we don't like, or we're told not to talk about money, right? Has anyone, like we were saying, all the movies, but has anyone noticed all of the articles on the internet? I read an article about how they market financial articles to women. All the financial articles for women are about saving pennies, cutting coupons, finding cheap groceries, right? And that's a little ridiculous, I think. And so all of those articles will be shown with imagery of like, you know, women with their pocketbook, or women at the grocery store, or a piggy bank, or something like that. To me, that is really demoralizing when I realized that's what's happening. all the articles for men, all the magazines for men that are financial, right, are like power moves and like success stories and motivation, and you know what I mean? And it's really frustrating to think that it's just set up that way. So I really hope we can, make that a change. But just to be aware that that is the messaging we are receiving, that as women, we are getting way different messages about success, money, business in general. So just to be aware of that, and that it's not your fault. It is not your fault that our parents told us it's not nice to talk about money, right? It is not your fault that our parents said, I don't know about you guys, my dad would always say, yuppies are pricks, right? Tell me if your dad said something about yuppies. But it made me think that, it's bad to be rich, right? Oh, it's bad to make money. And it's not, right? Those are just the messages that we hear. So with that, I feel like it comes this fear of spending money or fear of investing in our business. One, there's a little part of our ego that says, oh God, this is scary, this is new, this is change. And our ego creeps up to keep us safe. We've always played it safe. We've always played small, right? It is our fear creeping up and saying, hey, don't take that big risk. What if you get too big? What if you make money? Oh my God, is that what we want, right? So try to notice those feelings are coming up, right? If you are afraid to invest in your business, if you are afraid to spend money, take that course, download that freebie, or hire a coach, right? Those are some fears that creep up because it's keeping us playing small. It's our ego saying, hey, we've never done this before. This is scary. This is a risk. It could also be, right, this, I don't know what's on the other side of spending this investment. I don't know what that's going to look like. So I'm afraid, right? And so I just better not do that. So this comes up in a lot of excuses. We just tell ourselves, oh, well, I can't afford that. That's too expensive. Or, oh, it's not right. It's not the right time right now. It's, not something I can, I have the time for, right? I'm just too busy to spend that amount and really focus on all those things, right? Sometimes it's legit, right? Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I definitely think often it is our fear creeping up and keeping us playing small. Our fear and our ego says, don't do something out of our comfort zone. We don't know what that's like. I'm trying to keep you safe. I'm trying to keep you doing the same things that we've always done because we know what that's like, right? We don't know the unknown, obviously, right? We don't know what's on the other side. We don't know if something is going to work. So we're afraid to take that investment. Oh, well, I better get my return on investment, right? I don't know if I'm going to blah, blah, blah. So those are all conversations that we have with ourselves that it is so hard to take note of and get on the other side of. What I will share with you, right, is if you are a coach and you are afraid to take that step in your business, or you feel like you can't afford spending money on yourself or your business, I will tell you, every time I have taken that leap of faith and spent a big chunk on coaching or a course, it has moved my business leaps and bounds forward, right? Do I see money the next day? No, right? But it comes out in the long run. It's a little bit longer game, and I would not be here in my business if I had not taken those steps of investing and taken those scary leaps of faith. So oftentimes, right, I just say that, coaches use other coaches, right? If you're wanting to be a coach, definitely we can learn from each other. There are so many tricks and strategies that we all just need to learn from each other, right? And that is how we grow our business, is by investing in ourselves, taking that course, hiring that coach. That's how we're going to learn. So just take note of, right, if you catch yourself being afraid to take the next step in your business, afraid to take a leap of faith, just think about, is this really true, or is my ego creeping up and keeping me small and safe? Do you want to play big, right? The only way you're going to play big and grow is by taking a risk. And that can be scary, for sure. But I always say too, is it scarier to stay stuck, or scarier to take that leap of faith, right? I think it is far scarier to stay stuck because you have no plan, right? What if you don't invest? What if you don't get the right strategy? What if you don't know how to move forward, right? Then what? That is far scarier than if you know what to do and you're not taking the action. I think that's far scarier, right? So something to keep in mind, right? That if that fear is creeping up, just to name it, it is just fear. We can take it as information and then figure out how to move forward. So that's really the key, right? The third final fear that I'll talk about is we often as women say we are bad at sales, right? If you feel like you are bad at sales or we're told you're bad at sales, right? Tell me below. I feel like, again, this is a message that we get. I know my mother has said my entire life, oh, I'm not a saleswoman, right? Oh, we're just not salespeople. But if you're in business, right? Even if it's not your own business, I think every single one of us, especially women, we convince people to do things that we want, right? We tell our kids what they need to do and we convince them in ways. We are persuasive with perhaps our husbands or our friends, right? Hey, let's go to that restaurant. It's going to be great, blah, 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 blah. But yes, and Sandy, that is the point, that we may not think we're bad at sales, or if we think we're bad at sales, we don't want to be salesy, right? We don't want to come across as that scary, manipulative car salesman, right? I don't know what happened to car salesmen, but they just are the picture or the epitome of being salesy. Nobody wants to be sold to. Nobody wants to be salesy. So if you are feeling like you are bad at sales, I think it is about getting the right strategy and the right sales skills to not be salesy, right? There's a happy medium in between being too salesy and not being salesy enough. There is somewhere in between. And I guarantee most women are probably on the spectrum of not selling enough, right? If there is a place where you're being far too pushy, you are probably on the far other end. Most women are so afraid of being that too salesy that we are far more passive. We are not direct about, telling our followers and our customers, hey, this is what I offer, here's what I've got, right? Or following up, right? We're afraid we're being too pushy or too salesy, but more often than not, I think people don't see your messages. They don't see all of your posts. They are not seeing your messages. They're not getting the bigger picture. You see the bigger picture because you're in your business every single day, right? But oh yeah, Sandy, these are great. Yes, from Willy Wonka, right? Yeah, Mr. Beauregard, Violet's dad, for sure. So I really think that it is messages that we receive about, not being salesy. We don't want to be salesy. And there's a place where we can get the right sales skills to really get more strategy, right? It's not about being manipulative. It's not about, convincing someone something they don't need. Nobody wants to be that, right? You legitimately have a product and a service that you want to help people with. And it's about finding the right people and meeting them where they're at and offering them something that they need at that moment, right? It might be that you need to tell them a little bit more about why they need your product. They probably don't even know why they need your product or services, right? They don't know. They don't know what they don't know. So you've got to educate a little bit as well as persuade them in ways that why they need this now, right? And I think women can be really amazing at this because we are so empathetic. I think more so than men, we can come to the table with our feelings attached, which is a good thing, right? It's not a weakness to understand what the other person is feeling. Of course we understand, the bottom line. Of course we understand what it's like to have a busy household and, right, have to run a million things. Like, of course we understand that. So we can really come to the table with, I think, more empathy and be better at sales. I really think that is possible. So that is really the last one, that if you are feeling like you don't want to be, or that you feel like you're bad at sales, it's more likely that you don't want to be salesy. I really think that's the key. And there's a place where you don't have to be salesy, right? You can be good at sales without being salesy. It's about getting the right skill set, the right strategy, and feeling good about how you are selling to other people. So that's really, I think important. important to recognize, right? That none of us are bad at sales. You just might not have the right skills or the right training to be good at it, right? And good at it is arbitrary, right? I think we can all be really good at sales. It's about, we don't want to be salesy, for sure. All right, so those are really the three big fears that I think come up, and then I'll talk about some 3 steps that I think are really helpful to kind of overcome those fears. So the first one we talked about was self-doubt, self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, and the best way to, I think, really recognize that is to ask if it's true, right? To recognize it's coming up and then ask if that's true. The second one is fear of investing, right? If you feel like, or fear of money, or fear of spending money, right? Or taking that leap of faith in your business, spending a big chunk, not knowing the outcome. And that's with anything, taking a big risk in business. Business is all about risk, right? Sometimes you have to spend money to make money, but it's about taking a risk and not knowing what the outcome is going to be, but having faith in yourself, having that abundant mindset that it's going to work out, that these are the skills that you need to move your business forward. So again, recognizing that that's fear perhaps coming up, keeping you small, keeping you safe, keeping you in your comfort zone, right? You're not going to grow in your comfort zone. Something to keep in mind. So the third one is we are afraid of being salesy, right? We think we're bad at sales, and really it's we don't want to be salesy. And I think there's a happy medium, right? There's a place for all business. I think women can be good at sales, and just recognizing that it's okay to come to the table with feelings and empathy and just really be a genuine human being, right? There's nothing wrong with offering what you have to offer without being pushy, without being salesy, and just remember that you're a human, right? I think that's completely okay. And perhaps getting some sales training, right? Sales training, I think, is really important to have a big overall strategy to really understand how you're trying to sell to people. So I think that's the key. So here's my 3 tips to really overcome any fear. The best thing that I have really found that is helpful is meditation. If anyone else is a meditator, please tell me below, because I don't think we talk about it, right? I think, and meditation means a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people, but I would love to hear what it means for you. I think meditation is a really important part of getting in touch with yourself and really recognizing, is this fear creeping up? Oh, is this because of the bike shop, right? Is this from my past? Or, you know what I mean? It's really getting in touch with inside, calming the outside world and understanding what's inside of you. I think that is what meditation is all about, and really understanding what it is, what the question is, right? I will often, if I'm not sure the next move, or I feel weird about a situation, I will often meditate and really get inside myself. And more often than not, the inside your power, the universe, however you feel, it is to giving you the answer, right? Or at least giving you the direction. And I really think often the answer is inside of us. I really believe that. And it just helps kind of calm the outside world and be able to tell yourself, okay, this social, online social media is not a place that is set up to make me feel good about myself, right? It's not always lifting me up. I think there are so many women like in this group, right, where we do lift each other up, and I am cheering you on. I want your business to be successful for sure. But there are a lot of places where it's not so motivating, right? And so social media is a really hard place. So I really think, just recognizing that and quieting the outside world for a moment to be inside with yourself, I think is really, really important. So meditating for sure. And affirmations is the second one. So if you don't have a really good list of affirmations that you're telling yourself inside your head every day, those can be really helpful to change those thought patterns, right? We often get stuck in this, oh, she's better than me, or oh, I'm never going to get this, or oh my gosh, that post didn't work out. Of course it didn't work out. It never works out, right? Those are things that we often tell ourselves and don't even know that we're telling ourselves. So if there are some affirmations that speak to you, like, of course this is going to work out. Everything is working out in my favor, right? I'm going to be the wealthy woman I want to be. Like, keeping in that abundant mindset, like it's gonna happen. It's absolutely possible. It's done. I've seen it done. I've visualized it's done. So every time that fear creeps up and tries to keep you playing small, it's gonna work out, right? Everything is, so find some affirmations that really speak to you about what you wanna start telling yourself in your head. I think that is really key. And then the third trick, I think, or the third, I think, treatment to figuring out fear is books, right? I really think I'm a big professional development book reader. I love hearing different perspectives, and not everyone's, right, going to resonate with you, right? I think there are different authors and different words and ways that feels good to you. So find the right books, right? There are sales books that I have found that are really motivating, even just motivational books that are really helpful to really think about, gives you a different perspective. I really think that is the key to business, is figuring out, right? We are all learners, right? We all are students of business and life. So the more that we can learn, and the more we can learn from other people, I think is really the key. So those are really my tips for today. I really hope that was helpful. Tell me below if you feel like what jumped out to you, what is resonating with you. Do you feel like you are needing to meditate? Do you feel like you want to read a book? I'd love to hear some book titles that have spoken to you, or if you're looking for a book to read, feel free to say so below. And if you are just, at a place in your business where you're feeling a little stuck, right? If you are not sure how to move your business forward, but you need some skills to kind of fill in the gaps of where you are now and where you want to be, right? If you feel like there are some pieces missing to that strategy, feel free to just say strategy below. I would love to talk to you about what your current strategy is, and maybe some ideas on how to move your business forward, because I really think that it is about learning from each other, and I am all about helping you and your business to move it forward. We all get stuck sometimes, right? We all feel like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do, or I'm just going to do the same things I've been doing, right? And if any of you are in this posting strategy, right, we are told, and I feel like I was in this rut for years where I thought, well, all I know how to do is post, so I'm just going to post more and hope it goes viral, hope it blows up, right? And that is such a passive place to be, is this hoping or posting and hoping. And it's such a passive approach. I really think there is a better way to do things. There is a better way to go where your customers are. If you're wanting more strategy, just say strategy below, right? If you need actual leads to your business, we don't need more followers, right? You need actual leads, people who are showing interest and showing up and actually wanting to buy whatever it is that you're offering. That is the goal, right? We don't need just passersby scrolling and maybe liking and moving on. No one is seeing all of your posts. So if you are posting and that is your only strategy, let's talk. Definitely there is a better way. There's a better, more effective way to get the leads and qualified leads into your business every single day. So if that's something you're interested, you could say strategy or leads, or message me on the side, whatever is more appropriate for you. So I would love to talk to you more. Feel free to reach out if you have any other questions about fear. I would love to know what resonates with you today, maybe what other fears creep up for you, and what is maybe holding you back in your business. I would love to hear about it. You can always message me privately as well if you don't want to say so here. But thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you on the